Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Batman! Again. That was weird. So, thankfully, we didn't get a copyright strike or a takedown from Warner Brothers. Most of this stuff is public knowledge that I will be talking about that released about 2.5 years ago. Has been reported on by Kevin Smith, has been reported on a lot of different Batman sites over the past couple years, as well as yours truly, so... yeah, don't let the people not hear what the news needs to be if that was Warner Brothers that did that or somebody else. But, for whatever reason, the previous stream was terminated. I was unable to live stream again for about 8 minutes. In fact, the feature was completely removed from my channel, and, the video disappeared as well. So, interesting stuff. Oh well. So anyway, I'm K-Wing, and, I'm gonna tell you guys about the Batman script, at least bits and pieces that we know and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a total train of thought that's just gone now. Like, we were talking about all kinds of stuff, and I realized that we were offline right when I was getting to the Q&A section, because I told you guys everything I knew about the script that I've been talking about for the past couple years, talking about what we know about Matt Reeves' Batman, all that fun stuff. So, without further ado, let's dive into this yet again. And before I forget, because I didn't get a chance to really plug it, we just released our latest perk on Patreon, where we did the Batman Begins movie commentary, the full 2-hour movie, at K-Wings at the Movies. It's a $3 perk on Patreon. We do movie commentaries every few months, or a couple a month. The next one we're working on is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1. Which will be ready in about a week and a half. But currently, Batman Begins is up there if you guys want to support it, sync it, and watch it at home while you enjoy Batman Begins, arguably the best Batman origin film next to Mask of the Phantasm, which also uses flashbacks to show Batman's history, which is kind of cool. So, while we're driving around Gotham, terribly, running over people, we're going to take this time to talk about what was Ben Affleck's script and why was it so good. I was actually in the middle of explaining Warner Brothers' involvement on why they axed it, and mysteriously, the stream was terminated. So, interesting. And yes, if you guys and gals are new to this channel and don't know, Warner Brothers watches me like a hawk. They usually are perched high above me, and I have gotten some cease and desist things over the years, as well as almost been sued a couple times for information about both animated and Batman movies and games, which I have a very tight leash around my neck, so I am not allowed to report on leaks. But when things are public knowledge, then of course I'm here to tell you guys what's what, and most of the Batman script is public knowledge right now. Originally one of Ben's drafts that was helped by Jeff Johns. If you guys don't know who Jeff Johns is, he's a very important modern DC writer who was responsible for bringing Barry Allen back, making the Green Lantern books amazing, starting in 2009, I believe. And he also loves the Batman family. So Jeff Johns is a really great writer who actually had a very high position at Warner Brothers Entertainment for a while with the DC films. And one of those biggest projects that he didn't get to do was working with Ben Affleck on Affleck's amazing Batman script, which was just titled The Batman. So just a little background on what Ben Affleck's script was about, if you guys don't know. It was going to be a mystery thriller, and I know everybody is talking about, oh, Matt Reeves, you know, is going to make this awesome noir detective-driven film, but that's what Ben Affleck's movie originally was. It was a movie that was set in Arkham Asylum, and would be a murder mystery with Batman trying to solve the murder of either an Arkham inmate or some very popular Batman character. And the film was actually not going to be a massive budget either, since it was going to be, for the first film, like in one specific area. It was going to be a very linear film that was going to be very cost efficient, and Ben Affleck was going to have free roam to do whatever he wanted with the characters. It was also going to highlight a lot of stuff about the Bat family, which is why Kevin Smith, as a huge Batman fan, which you can listen to his stuff, Fat Man on Batman, arguably a bigger Batman fan than me and more knowledgeable, although that is debatable. I would love to get in the ring with Kevin Smith and see which one of us knows more about the Bat. Yours truly or Kevin. Kevin's up there in age for me, so he's getting a little, I wouldn't say senile, and I'm just, you know, picking on him a little bit. He's a very well-known Bat fan and awesome filmmaker, but I would just be curious if he would even debate with me and, you know, see how far back we can go. I think the fans would like that. Kevin Smith versus K-Wing. Who knows more about the Bat? But anyway, so Kevin Smith was super excited about the Batman script, saying that he saw, or rather read, some parts of it back in the day. Hopefully we're still live. We still live? Because I don't want to be cut off again. Okay, we're still live. Good. So, yeah, Kevin Smith was talking about the original film about 2 to 3 years ago, saying how amazing it was, and this was just early drafts that he got to take a peek because of his involvement with the CW shows. And from what he saw, he was like, whoa, this is going to be amazing. This might even challenge the Nolan films, yo. That's how Kevin talks. He, you know, he's trying to sound hip and stuff like that. So, from what he saw, he was like, whoa, you know, you guys, and the fans especially, man, the fans are going to be blown away by the setting of this film, and Deathstroke is involved with it. And even the Deathstroke actor was like, this is going to be an awesome film. And he was kind of mentioning some, not connection to the Arkham games, but that tone that we got with, like, Arkham Origins and Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. Not so much Arkham Knight, because you have to remember that that game was heavily in development and releasing when Ben Affleck was working on his script, with Jeff Johns kind of, like, nitpicking some things and being like, well, I think this would work better here, and this would work better in this setting, or, you know, he was more of like an overseer. He wasn't the guy who was writing it completely, and I don't know why people were even concerned that Jeff Johns was looking at Ben Affleck's script, because Jeff Johns is a very talented writer, as we've talked about. He did a lot of really great things with DC, and he's actually back doing a writing role again. So the man can write, and he's also really good at adapting film stories. He helped polish the Wonder Woman movie, like the script, before they started production. So, I mean, Jeff Johns, I don't understand why he gets a lot of heat for what he does, because the man is brilliant. He's a young, well, he was young. I don't know so much now, although I'm getting up in years. I'm 35 now, so I'm I'm no spring chicken anymore. In fact, just a little random trivia for you. Yesterday was the official air date of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe from 1983, which has turned 35 years old. And I retweeted that stuff last night because it was just like, I was going to say something about me being old and junk, but I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, and Kevin Smith, if you guys don't know, he and Ben Affleck aren't really close anymore. So, I mean, the fact that he's had nothing but good things to say about Ben's movie is, you know, really cool. So, let's just talk a little bit about what you guys could expect. You know so far that the movie was going to be set in either Arkham or some self-contained area with Batman solving a very important mystery using detective elements. It was going to be a thriller, and Ben Affleck was actually using a very... I don't know if this is necessarily a popular film. How many of you guys have heard of the 1997 David Fincher movie called The Game? Does anybody remember that or was alive during it? The Deathstroke actor also talked pretty highly about The Game, as has Ben Affleck and David Goyer and all these other people. So, I mean, it was kind of what they were hinting at for the inspiration for the Batman film. And Ben Affleck was super excited to get to work on this. And his attitude with trying to distance himself after Warner Brothers basically axed his movie. And he kind of had this tantrum, so to speak, where he said, you know, I'm not going to direct this and I'm not going to star in this. And he was really trying to hold out with this contract. But unfortunately for Mr. Affleck, his contract is kind of pretty solid. The only way he can really get out of it is, well, by his rehab stunt. That's the only way he can really be fired. And according to a lot of inside information that I had, which I no longer have access to a lot of that because of my public stunt with Teen Titans and some other things, I got in trouble. Which, if people are new to my channel, again, I'm not one who doesn't get in trouble with Warner Brothers often. So I have to be very careful, which is why I don't report on leaks, because I've been threatened with lawsuits a couple times. They didn't follow through because I either erased the videos or I backed off a little bit, because I'm just a small guy. I'm a YouTube channel with 300,000 subs. That's nothing. So, tangle with Warner Brothers? I'm not that crazy. So, no thanks. I don't care how important stuff is. Unless it's public knowledge, I'm not going to make a video on it, because I don't even know how I got this close to Warner Brothers. I blame Arkham. I really do. Arkham, like, typecast me as the Batman guy, and the lore stuff with DC and all this other stuff, and I'm stuck. I can never reinvent myself, so thanks for that. Not you guys, just Arkham in general. No disdain to Rocksteady, though. They make amazing games and all that fun stuff, but yeah, Warner Brothers is no stranger for poking around and messing with me, which I don't appreciate. But there's nothing I can do about it, so I gotta be good. So yeah, talking about the game movie, if you don't know what that is, it is a crime thriller mystery that is actually, you know, for non-superhero films, it's kind of cool. And the fact that we were going to get, like, this superhero Batman film like that, which is something we haven't really seen in the Batman films, is Batman using his detective-driven narrative. Like, using his prowess and his ability as, you know, the world's greatest detective. And that's something that Ben really wanted to highlight. And yeah, Matt Reeves is going to do, like, a detective noir thing. And according to information I had, for one drafts of Matt Reeves' movie, which I believe is not happening anymore, but Ben Affleck was going to stay on as kind of like a narrator role, because one thing that we haven't had in the Batman movies, which Reeves thought was kind of a cool idea according to people that have seen the first couple drafts, is that Ben was going to be the Batman narrator talking about the past to somebody, whether it would be a Robin or Alfred, we don't know. How do I back up again? There we go. But Ben was going to be Mr. Narrator and really describing his past. That way, technically, you could say that Ben Affleck was still Batman, even though a younger actor would be running around in the cape and cowl. And they would do, like, I guess they were planning on doing a trilogy or something like that for Reeves movies. Still have no idea what's happening, but then he actually went and he said, well, you know, that was a rumor early on that we were going to use a younger actor. And Ben Affleck, prior to Rehab, is still attached to Matt Reeves' movie. He also still has a producer credit, but yeah, that was one thing that I believe Ben's agent and other people representing saying him that wouldn't work with him just doing a narration thing. I mean, technically he would be fulfilling his contract, which is pretty tight. The only way you could really get out of that is that Rehab stunt, and the reason why Warner Brothers would fire Ben Affleck and release him from his Batman obligations has to do with the legality of the situation that Ben is currently involved with, being in rehab. Apparently, there's a lot of insurance involved with actors when this stuff happens, and it increased the cost of production of the film as well as the payout for the actor. And it becomes, like, way too costly. Since both the Batman by Ben Affleck was going to be kind of like an indie film in the sense, like, not a super expensive movie to produce, and Matt Reeves' movie is said to be a very budget film, the fact that they would have to do a massive payout for Ben Affleck leads many people to believe that he's going to be fired from the role or let go of his contract obligations, because of the poor man being in rehab, which is going to upset a lot of Ben Affleck fans, myself included, if they do this. I mean, Ben being attached to the role is still 50-50 at this point, but some of those naysayers that don't want him involved in the next Batman movies, I mean, they have a lot more weight now, and if Warner Brothers wants to, they can remove him from the role, which would be a big mess and really mess up the continuity for the Batman films, but there's not really much we can do. We're still live, right? Please say we're still live. Oh, thank God. Ah, good times. So yeah, when companies and publications are talking about how excited they are for Matt Reeves' film, it's not as good as Ben Affleck's. It's not going to be. I don't know if Kevin Smith and other people have really gotten to see a lot of Matt Reeves' drafts. Some information has come out about it, but most stuff it's kind of confusing. One point, the Penguin was attached to Matt Reeves' movie, but now he might still be. I know that Black Mask is going to show up in the Birds of Prey film now, which makes sense because he does have a connection to the Huntress, and you could kind of say he has a connection to Catwoman and not so much Poison Ivy, but some other characters. I don't even know if Catwoman is going to be in the Birds of Prey movie. Last I heard, it was going to be Huntress, Black Canary, and Orphan. Although you could wiggle Black Mask's involvement into Cassandra Cain if you wanted to, if the writer is really good. But who knows? As far as I know, she's never really had a huge connection to Roman Sionis. But some of the Huntress books pre-52 has had some type of connection to the Sionis family. So that's not unheard of, and it's pretty exciting to have Black Mask involved. The only thing that I don't want them to do in the Birds of Prey movie is to make Black Mask appear to be another villain in disguise. Nobody liked that they did that in the Arkham Origins movie, and yeah, it's just, that would be terrible. But where was I? We were talking about Matt Reeves' thing. So, Penguin was originally attached to that Batman script, but he also was going to appear in Ben Affleck's script. And like I've mentioned before years ago, if you want to go back and read my ramblings for some of the Affleck stuff, you would know that Arkham Asylum was going to play a big role in one of the drafts for Ben Affleck's script that, according to sources, did make it into the final cut of his script that Warner Brothers said no to. There was going to be a lot of cameos and highlights of different Bat characters and Bat villains to try to show how big the world that Ben Affleck wanted to make a trilogy of really is. And Bat fans, mainly myself, would have loved it because the most Bat family or Bat rogues and Bat family members we've ever seen has been very limited. Usually, the rule of thumb is you have like 3 bad guys in a Batman film. Chris Nolan did it with Scarecrow and Carmine Falcone and Ra's al Ghul, and then in The Dark Knight you had Joker, the Mob, and Two-Face. That's also 3. The Dark Knight Rises had Bane and the League of Shadows, and it had, of course, was it Talia? I can't remember. She was Talia, right? I think she was. Well, that was 3. Technically, the Scarecrow cameo would jump to 4, but she wasn't Talia. She was Ra's al Ghul, right? No, she was Talia. She was a terrible Talia. Yes, she was. She was Talia. Okay, yeah. Sorry. It takes me a while to remember some of this stuff. But yeah, that was the rule of 3. So Ben Affleck's movie was going to be super different because you would have cameos of the likes of like the Penguin and Two-Face and possibly Jared Leto's Joker. There were talks at one point to have him like make a cameo in the Batman movie, which when fans heard about that, they were kind of like, what? Because his performance, from what they saw, was 50-50 when Suicide Squad was still in production. And the things that you were hearing about Jared Leto's Joker, not everybody was on board. So the fact that he was kind of attached to the Batman in some capacity had people a little nervous because, love it or hate it, that Joker is very controversial. And the reason he's controversial is because Jared Leto, for whatever reason, decided to go after the all-star Joker for his inspiration. The Mafia Joker that really a lot of people didn't really like. The guy who beat up on prostitutes and killed them, and he was a crazy mob boss. Thanks, Frank Miller. It's just, he's a terrible Joker. So bringing him to the silver screen was just all kinds of, didn't work. And the fact that Joker wasn't even the bad guy in the Suicide Squad, you know, from one thing that appeared in Affleck's scripts that they were really going to encompass over the course of a trilogy was talking about, like, what happened to the dead Robin. I don't know if they had a name for the Robin, because remember, Zack Snyder originally had Dick Grayson killed off, which we did report on, and I even did a video about a couple weeks ago. Was it a month? It was a while ago, where Zack Snyder admitted, yeah, I killed Dick Grayson. Fight me. So, according to a lot of people, Warner Brothers also wanted to bring in the Red Hood for the Batman franchise, which is something that probably isn't going to be happening now because Jason Todd is now attached to the Titans live-action show. And he is going to square off against Dick Grayson and Titans, which I believe that's why I got in trouble with Warner Brothers. I don't know if that's considered public knowledge or not, but Jason Todd will be appearing in the Titans show. And because he's in the Titans show now, since he's being used there, it's kind of hard to use him in the movies because of the bat embargo. You know, DC really has to approve what characters go what and where. So I wouldn't count on seeing Jason Todd show up other than a name drop in the Batman movie at all. Same for Dick Grayson for a while, unless Chris McKay has completely dropped out of directing the Nightwing movie, which would put the Nightwing movie in Tartarus for who knows how long, because Dick Grayson is becoming Nightwing in the Titans show, which really isn't, you know, something people should be shocked about. I really think that DC needs to get their head out of their butt, and Warner Brothers, and just let other characters exist in both the CW, the DC Universe, and the DC Cinematic Universe. How they can really one-up the Marvel Cinematic Universe is really use that multiverse. You're doing it with the Joker film. You could really do that with a Keaton Batman Beyond movie, too. People want to see offshoots in other universes in the DC Universe. And DC prides itself with having this vast multiverse and this huge history since, like, the 60s or 70s, where the multiverse was really highlighted. So they should do that. Let Ben Affleck be Batman in his own trilogy in the DC, you know, cinematic universe that was established in the Man of Steel, and then do a lot of separate universes that fans want to see. Michael Keaton Batman Beyond movie, where he's a retired grumpy Batman working with Terry McGinnis. You know, make that like a little trilogy and its own thing, and get Tim Burton back to direct it. Boom. There's like money in the bank right there. Then do another multiverse movie on Flashpoint or something like that, and get back the actor who did whatever. And then when they try to do stuff with the TV show, have this massive Infinite Crisis thing that would blow the Infinity War concept out of the water. You know, because then you could interact with all these different Batman and Superman actors. It'd be a long time to build that up, but that would be amazing. They do it in the comics and animation all the time. So, I mean, that's how DC and their executives at Warner Brothers could really do something, but they won't. But hopefully we're still alive, and I'll be opening up some stuff. I just want to talk a little bit more about Ben Affleck stuff. So, the villains we're going to play kind of like this side role, and one of the people who is going to be messing with poor Batman inside of the asylum was going to be Deathstroke. And the actor who played Deathstroke actually confirmed this stuff, because we don't even know if he's still playing Deathstroke anymore. A lot of people and industry insiders are saying that, unfortunately, the Injustice movie, where the Justice League was going to square off against Lex Luthor and his, not crime syndicate, but Legion of Doom, has been completely scrapped now. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be recasting Lex Luthor because reception was very poor for the actor who played him. But Deathstroke, he has no idea what's happening. Supposedly he's getting his own movie, and supposedly he's not. So that little tease with him at the end, which looked amazing, he looked like the Arkham Origins Deathstroke. Nobody knows what's happening. Nobody. It's just all up in the air. The only thing that's concrete right now for the Bat universe is the Birds of Prey movie. And even that is kind of like, nyeh. The Nightwing movie, Chris McKay dropped off all of social media. He's hard at work on a movie that is not for DC. I believe it is for Warner Brothers, but it's not connected to Nightwing at all. Last he spoke about Nightwing, when certain actors were tweeting him all the time asking if they could play the character, not blaming any of the actors attached, because I think that they would do a phenomenal job. But Chris McKay, he wants to focus on his other projects because he's not ready to do Nightwing just yet. And maybe he had a falling out based on learning what Zack Snyder planned to do, or did, with the Dick Grayson character. It's all subjection right now. Nobody knows anything. And I have no way of asking people about Nightwing or Birds of Prey or even Titans anymore, because my contacts are now strictly related to the DC Universe app, as in like distribution for it and talking to content creators. And of course, my ear is still in the Batman video game market. But I have been pretty much not blacklisted, but we'll say quietly removed from getting information about the cinematic universe, which is kind of upsetting for me because I really, for the past 4 or 5 years, ever since it was announced that Batman was going to be in BVS, I've really been getting contacts and doing all this other stuff and working very hard to stay in that market to kind of expand the channel. And now I'm completely in the dark, other than what just becomes public knowledge. So it's a little upsetting. So, I mean, if a lot of you tuned in for my insight with that, that's pretty much gone. And it was actually pretty close to getting sued that past time with the Titans, too. I had to... I forget what I did. I had to sign, like, a new agreement and some other stuff. I got a big slap on the wrist, though. And originally I did get a copyright strike, but they removed it, which was good. But that's one of the reasons I couldn't stream for a couple months. Is once you get a copyright strike, you can't stream for a while. So, yeah, that's that. The only other thing that I could really bring up, because I personally haven't really ever seen the movie The Game. I know it's like a detective-driven story. It's a really cool thriller. I have read the original Arkham Asylum comic book. And I know that Ben Affleck is a huge fan of the Arkham games, but when he was penning his script, the type of Arkham games that he had to use as source materials would have been Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. Arkham Knight wasn't out yet, and it was, you know, really behind a lot of closed doors. In fact, some of the things that Ben Affleck and his team would have seen for Arkham Knight didn't even happen in the game, such as having Nightwing and Robin working with Batman in the city, and the villains actually all working together and actually meeting to discuss Batman's demise. That's something that was hinted in the trailers, but never happened, of course, in the game. Other than Scarecrow just kind of saying, oh, we all met up and, you know, we're just going to have Arkham Knight do his own thing, and all the bad guys are going to work independently. Originally, according to Rocksteady, and how they wanted the game to go if they had a little bit more time, is the villains were going to have their own kind of narrative, competing with Batman a little bit. Batman would have his story to tell about Arkham Knight, and the bad guys would be meeting to discuss how they were going to kill the Dark Knight, and kind of like an homage to Almost Got Him, you know? And the narrative would kind of be split between what's going on with Batman in his last night as Batman, and also the villains, how that impacts them. But all that was scrapped for time, unfortunately. But you can still see some hints of that. So, we don't know if the bad guys were going to play a key role in the narrative for Ben Affleck's movie. We know that they were going to appear in some capacity, either as cellmates in Arkham, trying to kill Batman, or Batman is interrogating them to find out, you know, who murdered so-and-so. And we don't know who was killed. It could be an important Batman character, or it could have just been, some random nobody that is just, a random Batman comic, where Batman, he's not always out for revenge for, you know, someone in his close circle that gets killed. He is a defender of the innocent, and he will seek justice no matter what. So Batman breaking into Arkham Asylum to, go after a serial killer is not something that would be unheard of. It'd be kind of cool, but who knows? I mean, it's so scattered, the information about the scripts that Ben Affleck did, and I guarantee you, just like we saw with the Batman Keaton films and Batman Triumphant, the scripts eventually will release, just like the Year One did, that other people were connected to in the late 90s, early 2000s. So the only time that you will get to know all the juicy details about Ben Affleck's script is when I do a video, basically describing every single aspect of it, the way I did the Batman 2 script and some of the other Batman scripts that we've taken apart and made lore videos on, because they're fascinating reads. And I do agree that Affleck's stuff would have been the best Batman film that we ever saw. But we're not going to get that, unfortunately. No idea what Matt Reeves is going to do. It's a little upsetting, but, you know, whatever. The reason why Chris Nolan's movies were so good, which I was actually talking about before the stream shut down last time, and I don't know if I'm repeating points, I'm sorry. Lore videos are very scripted with bullet points, so it's very easy for me to stay on topic. When I'm running around in the Arkham games, it's kind of difficult for me to do a little bit because I do have ADD, and I can get easily distracted by things, like if my wife comes down and says, hey, you want dinner? Or the cat is running around the house jumping and attacking my door or tearing up my carpet. All these things are distractions for me. When I see the chat moving in the background, it's hard for me to focus on certain things. But, you know, I live through my disability, I work through it, and I'm still probably one of the most influential Batman guys on the internet. So even with my little hiccups, I think I do a pretty darn fine job. But getting back to Chris Nolan's stuff. The reason why a lot of you guys, and people that don't know comic books, not saying that a lot of you don't, you've been watching my stuff for years, so you're getting pretty well versed in the Batman character, I would say. But Nolan, the reason why his movies were so good is because he borrowed heavily from the comic books, and he used a lot of that stuff from like the Bronze Age, which a lot of you guys and gals know is the 70s and 80s Batman stories. One such story that he used that he didn't really get to highlight in his movie. In fact, Warner Brothers cut Christopher Nolan's movie for time. He was going to do kind of like a homage to Batman Year One, so you could see Batman's training outside of just the ninjas, which actually we're going to be talking about next week in the Arkham Wednesday's lore for Batman Begins. I'm going to give you guys all the information about what was supposed to be canon for Chris Nolan's movie, such as training Batman did, not just after he left Rachel Dawes after being slapped in the face and throwing his gun in the ocean in Gotham, but what he was doing while he was away from Gotham when he was in Princeton and stuff like that, and the different schools he attended. And this is all official canon because Chris Nolan signed off on this stuff when the novelization was written by Batman legend Danny O'Neill, who was responsible for a lot of detective-driven Batman stories of the 70s and 80s. He's a fantastic Batman writer, and he's the guy responsible for pretty much every Batman movie adaptation since the '89 Batman film. Although I don't believe he did The Dark Knight Rises. He had other projects that he was working at DC again, so he did all the novelizations for Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever. He did not do Batman and Robin. He came back for Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, and I believe he did BVS. I'm not sure, though. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff that was supposed to happen because Chris Nolan, he used some of Frank Miller's stuff for Batman Begins, just a little bit. But his story, if you really think about it, is based on the comic book The Man Who Falls, which was written by Danny O'Neill and penned or arted by, arted's not a word, with the art by Neil Adams. And it's a fantastic story explaining why do we fall. And if you remember in Batman Begins, that was used constantly in the movie. That phrase, why do we fall, Master Bruce? You know, that echoing moral about, you know, picking yourself up. That was the story for the Batman Begins film, which is based on a very famous comic book. So, Affleck also wanted to use famous comic books and video games to, you know, mold his story. But Warner Brothers said no. And when they did that, Affleck walked away from directing, and, you know, he had to have his pride kind of hurt too. Because his original contract stated that he was supposed to write and direct and have full control over the Batman film if he was going to appear in BVS and Justice League two-parter and all this other stuff. He only signed on to do that movie with Superman and the Justice League so he could tell his own Batman story because he is a fan of the character. He actually got to pick his writing staff, he got to pick his executive staff, he got everything. And then Warner Brothers, I don't know, maybe because BVS didn't do as well, they said no. your script isn't good enough, when everybody was saying that it was. So, I mean, it's not Ben's fault for all the misgivings for Batman or the reception of Justice League. It's Warner Brothers. And they can fight me on that. It's their fault. They didn't know what they were doing. You know? But anyway, after we beat up these guys, we will open up the floor to comments. Whoops. After I run all these fools over. And also, I just want to let you guys know, outside of Batman, that we did not get the Spider-Man game early, so you'll have to wait for the series and the skin stuff to start. But I will be doing a little bit of spider lore for the costumes. I haven't decided what channel I'm going to release the videos on. I think it would be kind of blasphemous to have, like, Marvel stuff on this channel. So, because all the Marvel fans are on my second channel. But, I do want to congratulate Insomniac Games for their first entry in the series, and I hope that they get another entry. I hope that Sony will let them make a franchise, but unfortunately it's not up to Sony. That is all up to Disney, who owns Marvel, and Disney is a very hard company to make games for, because if your game doesn't meet expectations, they cancel any hope for a sequel or anything else. And according to information that I've heard, a lot of Disney people are not thrilled with Spider-Man not dethroning the Arkham games. Spider-Man was projected to get a better score than the Arkham franchise, according to Metacritic, and it did not. It tied Arkham Knight, which is considered the lesser property in the Arkham franchise, and didn't come anywhere near the 90 to 92% rating that both Arkham City and Arkham Asylum still hold as the top superhero game of all time. And really, it wasn't expected that was going to happen, but the fact that people are so upset about the 87% rating is kind of ludicrous, because this is the first entry in a potential franchise. I mean, they already achieved a lot of great things. I think people just need to be happy with what they got and stop trying to compete with the Arkham games. You know? And also, I think it's funny that I believe the group is called the Spidey Squad, but there were some individuals that were trying to get the score for the Spider-Man game changed so that it could surpass the Arkham games. And I think that's just ridiculous. Like, some people were even asking for, like, a review recount. It's like, what the heck? This fan base is kind of crazy. I mean, the Arkham fan base was a little weird too, but I mean, asking to get scores changed, or being upset like that review scores didn't quite all get 9s and 10s, that's kind of like deranged, don't you think? You know? I mean, like, I'm excited about the Spider-Man game, but like calling for reviewers to reevaluate their scoring so that your game can get like the best rating of all time, that's kind of insane. But I also find it funny, too, that a lot of these Spider fans who got the game early are like getting like copyright strikes and DMD takedowns for their content, thinking that just because they got the game early, that makes them exempt from the rules of copyright or some other stuff. I feel bad at the same time, but not when people like go and make a big deal about it. Like, you know, one minute they love Sony and Insomniac for getting them the game early, and then the next minute they're calling for their head. It's just like, I guess they would call those fair-weathered fans. I don't know. That kind of news is funny to me, but nobody's really reporting on that. I was expecting the fan outrage on the score of Spider-Man to be all over the internet this morning, so I'm kind of glad that they're not really highlighting it, because it was an isolated thing, and it's kind of stupid that would even be a thing. I never petitioned, or nor did any of the Arkham fans, to have the score for any of the Arkham games changed. It's like, that's what the critics gave the game, you know, and then fans gave their own scoring. That's usually how it works. You can't change what's already written in stone. All you can hope for is that the next game in the franchise, if it gets a franchise, hopefully it will, you know, surpass expectations. But I had a lot of, you know, heat to say about the Arkham games. I was a big opponent for the Arkham stuff. because, you know, I expect better. And when they removed some content from the game, I was definitely a whistleblower, and I was pretty disappointed. I couldn't just be like, oh, you know, Rocksteady is God, and they know no fault. It's like, no, they messed up some stuff in this game. They heavily relied on the Batmobile way too much. They removed the part about Robin and Nightwing being able to be used in free roam, even though the mods do exist where you can use that, but Nightwing and Robin played a huge role. Kevin Conroy even said that he had a lot of dialogue that he recorded with Nightwing and the Robin actor that never made it in the game, where he was issuing orders to do things. So, I mean, and that's not Batman being senile. He talked about that all the way back when he was working on, or when Arkham City released, and he was working on a secret project. So he was doing ADR for Arkham Knight, you know, years before it even came out. Why didn't Warner Brothers and DC allow this stuff to be in the game? That's a question a lot of people should be asking. You know, but nobody does. They're just kind of like, you know, we got what we got. Arkham Knight is the best game in the franchise. It's like, no, it's not. Arkham City is still the best game. Arkham Knight made a lot of leaps and bounds towards future games, and then Rocksteady said, you know what, we're done with the Arkham franchise. And Warner Brothers Montreal didn't do anything. Everybody thought they were going to copy the engine like they did with Arkham City and release, like, you know, this kind of okay filler game while people wait for the next mainstream entry by the good developer, but that never happened. They tried. They tried doing a Damian Wayne game using the same engine for Arkham Knight, because that's what WB Games Montreal does. They copy and paste. That's why Arkham Origins was not hailed as an amazing game, you know. They didn't come up with that engine, they just reused it. And I like Arkham Origins. Part of it was really good, and part of it was really bad. No game is without fault. That's what you have to realize if you become a critic. It's okay to show a bias for little things, but you need to make sure that you're very clear on what is good and bad about the game. That's what makes a critic good. When a company has faults, you're supposed to call them out on. That's why I don't like fan groups, personally. I didn't want to get involved with whatever the Spidey group is, and I didn't want to be involved with the Arkham fans because I want to do my own thing. I am going to be reviewing the Spider-Man game. I did a poll on my Twitter, and I guarantee you a lot of Spider-Man fans are not going to be happy because I find faults with every game. They exist. No game is perfect. So, it's going to be after release, and, you know, I'm a little nervous because I haven't made a review in 4 years. I think I did a pretty good job on that Amazing Spider-Man review for several years ago, and that's more aligned what I would like to do with that, you know. But we're getting off topic. Why don't we open up the floor to comments about the Batman movie, and I will do my best to talk about it. Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes I can be a deranged fanboy. I went after this guy from Vice News because I don't like it when people spread misinformation. I had a Twitter fight about, like, 3 weeks ago. I put this guy in his place, though. It was funny. And Vice News isn't really a credible news organization anyway. But this guy went viral on Twitter, and he made a false statement about how Batman was lazy and anybody in their 30s can accomplish something because, you know, in Batman Begins, he was 30. Which is technically correct, but technically not. Anybody watching the Batman movie would know that when he puts the cape and cowl on, he's anywhere between 28 or 29. He has his 30th birthday at the end of the movie when he's already been established as Batman. And eventually this... I'm not going to bring this guy's political affiliation in, but I'm pretty sure you can guess by how argumentative this person was. He was a total tool, and I put him in his place. I didn't feel bad about it either. I did not feel bad at it. I had no guilt whatsoever, like, you know, making this guy eat his words and embarrassing him in front of his viral tweet. That was hilarious for me. All he could do was block me because he had no way of getting any word in edgewise because the facts were right there. He was stupid because even without being a Batman expert, you could just tell that the guy is celebrating his 30th birthday after he's already been Batman. The fight at the docks, the Gotham docks, or Neil Adam docks, wherever it was. I think it was Dixon docks, where Carmine Falcone is like trussed up, and you know, Batman saves Rachel Dawes all in the same night. He's 29 years old. The very end of the movie, which, if you didn't know from Nolan's film, there's actually a time lapse. It seems like everything takes place like over the course of 1 week that Batman is active, but they actually omitted a lot from the movie that's in the novelization. Batman had a lot more scrapes and stuff like that, other than his mishap with Scarecrow in the Narrows, where he's set on fire. In fact, he's actually Batman for about 6 months after the Falcone incident, because it doesn't take Ra's al Ghul a couple weeks for him to, you know, get back to fighting order, get the remains of the League of Shadows, which is scattered all over the world, to come to Gotham and set his plan in motion. That happens over the course of 6 months. And he also does a time lapse in The Dark Knight Rises as well, after Batman's back is broken. It's almost a year later, a year to 6 months. So, you know, it was just kind of funny. And, you know, I have no problem with people who aren't super fans of Batman liking the character, but I do have a problem when people spread misinformation, and I will call you on it, because it makes people dumber. The truth is right there in the movie. It's very easy to see. If you can't do math, then there's no help for humanity. Batman was 9 years old when his parents died. 14 years later was the hearing for Joe Chill. He disappeared for 7 years, came back when he was 29. That's just simple math. So, I'm sorry. But anyway, the movie. What do you guys want to know about the Affleck movie that I can share? I will find you, and I will shame you. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. I don't like stupid people. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're a blue check mark on Twitter. I'm coming after you if you're stupid. And especially if it falls in my wheelhouse, because I have nothing better to do than to make you look like a fool in front of your audience. And if I can pick up some people on the side for telling the truth, it's like, hey, I'm going to do it. Are they reconting BVS? No. They have retconned some stuff about BVS. Warner Brothers and Matt Reeves have both done it, as well as other people that are making Batman movies. As soon as Chris McKay was approved doing his Nightwing Dick Grayson movie, if you remember correctly, Warner Brothers went into full damage control, and that's right around the same time that they revealed at the Warner tours, where the costume props were during the release of, I believe it was Wonder Woman, or one of the other, it was the Suicide Squad movie, that Jason Todd was the dead Robin, because originally, I believe in Snyder's vision, he wanted to bring, yeah, he even said it, he wanted to bring Carrie Kelly into the Batman mythos, like, which is fine. You want to bring a girl Robin in, cool, but Dick Grayson wasn't dead while Carrie Kelly was becoming Robin. He was off wherever. Of course, they later ruined Robin's involvement, the original, by turning him into like this metahuman Joker murderer for The Dark Knight Strikes Again or whatever, which is a terrible book. I do not recommend people reading it. It shows that Frank Miller was getting up there in years and becoming super deranged. And then he went and was like, fine, you people don't like The Dark Knight Strikes Again? Well, I'm going to come back with another entry. The All-Star Batman. Where, you know, we got that terrible Batman meme. And Robin was forced to eat rats, and Batman was an abusive step-parent. It's just, ugh. It's terrible stuff. I mean, Frank, seriously, you need help, dude. You need a really good therapist, and you just need to step away from comic books for a while because you've lost it. You know, just take a breather, go outside, maybe write manga or something for a change. Just stay away from Batman because your stuff, it was great once. It's becoming horrible. And his recent thing where he made, like, the Robin slash Catgirl character become Batman, that was the stupidest stuff I've ever read. I mean, DC needs to stop giving this guy a license to write things. He doesn't know what he's doing anymore. He's just living by the name Frank Miller. It's like, heck, if you want a good Batman story, I will pen it for half the cost, and I guarantee you it will be better. I would do like a detective story. I like murder mysteries, so I would probably do what Ben Affleck did. I would kill somebody. I would probably kill a member of the Bat family, personally. Or, like, somebody who was attached to the Bat family. Oh, no, I know who I would kill, but I would be labeled, like, something horrible. I would probably kill Batwoman. That's what I would do. In an Elseworld story, I would kill Batwoman. And because she has, like, an emotional attachment to Bruce Wayne being, like, actual blood family, like, I would make it, like, a really interesting whodunit tale. And I guarantee you I'd have people in the comic industry, like, calling for my head, but she's not an interesting character. You take away her gayness, she's nothing. So, you know, the last writer who did Batwoman, he put her in a team-up book, and she was great in it. I like that she was kind of like the lieutenant of Batman's army in that Detective Comics run, which you guys should read. It's a really good DC Rebirth thing. And Batwoman actually has an important part in that story. But yeah, I mean, just based on character reception, she would be the character that I would kill for my story. As an Elseworlds, I wouldn't pit it in the same universe because people would be like crying like foul and all kinds of stuff. You know how crazy people are these days. But that's what I would do. And I know that DC would never hire me to do that. But I would definitely want to do like a detective-driven story because I grew up reading a lot of 1970s and 80s Batman stories by Danny O'Neill and some other really talented Batman writers that wanted to distance Batman from his roots of the Golden Age craziness that we saw because of the campy Adam West show. They wanted to bring Batman back to his Bob Kane and Bill Finger roots of like story-driven detective stuff. And that's personally where I believe that Batman will excel very well. So part of me is very interested about what Matt Reeves is going to do, but at the same time I already know that what we would have gotten with Ben Affleck is what I as a Batman fan would have wanted, and as a moviegoer. So, you know, I wish they would just release the script and make a novel of it. Because then they could make like maybe a charity foundation for Ben Affleck being in rehab or something when he's released from the role. That way, like, a lot of Bat fans can get like kind of this cool thing that they can read on the side, because the Batman scripts always do really well as novels. You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm getting off topic. More stuff about Batman, like the movie. I got my phone right here. You see Batman walking around, I'm just reading comics. Or reading comments, not comments. Was Affleck's movie script going to take place in Arkham Asylum or just about Batman versus Deathstroke in Gotham City? Some of the early drafts of the movie had it taking place in Arkham. Like Batman was trapped in Arkham. It would borrow inspiration from the Arkham Asylum comic book, as well as the Arkham origin story featuring Deathstroke in a very important role. Because Deathstroke, as you know, was hired by Black Mask to try to kill Batman along with a group of assassins. So the assassination plot on Batman while he's trying to solve a murder mystery was going to play some important role in the movie. And then I believe it was just dropped to Batman is in Arkham trying to do this stuff, and Deathstroke keeps getting in his way, like slowing him down from figuring out who done it. Which would have been kind of cool, because like Deathstroke has a stake in what happened, and Batman, you know, and Gotham has a stake in what happened. According to what the Deathstroke actor hinted over the course of his involvement and when he showed up for, you know, suiting up for the film or whatever. Do you know anything about Wonder Woman 84? No. I have no longer any film contacts at Warner Brothers. I lost them during the... I guess I was running damage control that I didn't get paid for when people were really upset about Robin dropping the F-bomb, and I made a viral tweet, and I got talked about by that viral tweet. Originally, I was told that I had to remove it and, like, make a rebuttal or a retraction that that isn't the case or something, but I stuck to my principles, and I worked it out with my then contact, and my person at the Warner Brothers Film hasn't talked to me since. So usually when that happens, because it's happened in the game industry to me, when a contact, like, stops returning your messages or doesn't text you anymore, that means they're done with you. As far as I know, I'm not blacklisted because I do have a friend that works in film, but he is distancing himself from me. And for good reason, because when I find juicy information that I can get on my YouTube channel, I would run with it, because everybody is these days in a desperate need for views. So while I don't clickbait, I do try my best to get whatever information I can and release it to the public. I've always done that over my career. But that is going to be very hard for me to do because all that ground that I made is gone. And let me tell you, that was a very lengthy process that I was doing while heavily invested in Arkham Knight. And I had some ground that I could stand on because I was a key influencer for Arkham Knight. So, you know, certain divisions of Warner Brothers were very pleased to work with me and actually sought to work with me. But with the shape that my channel's in currently, starting over again and getting your foot in the door for, say, like the DC Cinematic Universe or animation or the CW, that would be impossible. And also, they're going to be very careful who they even allow to, you know, get certain contacts in this thing, because they're really going to be more careful with things, I guess you could say. But Warner Brothers can also thank me for that viral tweet, because I got a lot of people to stop worrying about what Robin was going to be like in the Teen Titans thing. And I didn't get a thank you, I got like a threat. It's like, okay, fun. That's why I've always wanted to get into anime, because anime companies, they're a lot nicer to you. If I could just retire from the comic book industry, which is like super divided right now, I would love that. You know, I have a guest that's attached to another part of the indie comics industry that's going to be on my channel in a couple weeks, and people are going to be calling for my head. And, I mean, I'm having the guy come on to talk about Batman. He might plug his current books that he's working on. You know, I have no problem with the guy. I'm a person that can separate the politics from the artist or the writer and just respect people for the work that they did, you know. And I see a problem with both movements. Personally, I think that they have people involved on either side, that they dox one another, and that they're, you know, causing problems on both sides. It's not this side's the victim and that side's the victim. Both sides do things wrong. And, you know, the other side, unfortunately, I guess you would call them the SJWs, they're not really doing a lot of right things currently, but not all of them are crazy. Some of them are very quiet and reserved and, you know, believe that diversity in comics is a good thing, but they also aren't trying to force diversity in comics. So it's not just having a character that's diverse for the sake of having a character that's diverse to sell books. So, I mean, some aspects of that other side, the comic skaters, is correct. Some of their methods are not correct. So, I mean, you know, I'm in the middle of all that. But I am having this guest come on. He was a big part of the Batman mythos from, I would say, probably 2009 through about 2012. He did some stuff on the New 52. He did Nightwing books. He was an artist. He helped save Nightwing from Forever Evil with a bunch of other people. So the man, he deserves a lot of respect. And like I said, he's my first industry guest. And it's going to be the first time that I've actually had anybody who's worked at DC or Warner Brothers want to actually be in one of my videos. So I'm pretty excited about it, personally. But yeah, they're probably going to plug their upcoming work, and I'm not going to be disrespectful or anything like that. I'm very amazed with what the CG people were able to do by selling, what was it, 500,000, something like that, and really growing their small industry. That's amazing. But, I mean, at the same time, indie comics have been around all the way back since the 80s and 90s. This is just like a new, what do they call it? Like a new identity for it. It's like a reboot of the indie comics. Indie comics have always been a thing. It's not a new thing. This is just like a reboot. And it's pretty cool. But anyway, back to the Ben Affleck stuff. Because, like I said, these streams can go all over the place. Who's seen the teaser images for Titans that's been released recently, where you're showing, like, the dead parents? I don't know if Ben Affleck's movie was going to be rated R. I believe he was going for a PG-13 rating. I don't think it was going to be like a super gory thing. I know that he likes to swear in his movies, and he does make a lot of R-rated movies, but at the same time, while he was working on the film, it was supposed to be a PG-13 rating to make it more accessible, and since it was going to be like a murder mystery and things like that, slash thriller, you know, they were trying to keep it as open as possible. I believe Matt Reeves' movie has also been giving a PG-13 rating as well, although I think he wanted an R rating at one point because of the success of Deadpool. But Deadpool is a satire character that really works with an R rating. It's like the gore and all this other stuff is almost humorous. You know, it's like overly excessive and everything is over the top because Deadpool is like this major satire character. So that type of R-rated movie works, just like Logan's movie really worked well for an R rating because it was the end of the character and they really wanted to go all out, you know? So that's why I don't believe that superhero movies should be rated R just because they can, like, drop F-bombs and, you know, punch people in the head more and do all this other stuff. The reason why the BVS cut was rated R, if you guys didn't know this, it has to do with some of the dark aspect of the story, the mature element, and also it has to do for a lot of the martial arts scenes. Ever since, like, the 80s, if you have a movie where a guy gets punched in the head too many times, it's rated R automatically. So the fight scene, which is extended in the BVS cut, has a lot more of the head punching and, you know, people's heads splattering up against the wall and all that other stuff. The fight scene that we saw in the movies, like in the theater, really should have been an R-rated film. Like, that fight scene was very graphic. And it's even more graphic in BVS, so that's why it got the R rating. And, you know, I believe they added a few more swears and some other stuff to it, but usually, since I follow a lot of martial arts films as a hobby, I love Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee films and Jet Li movies and things like that. If you notice, a lot of those films get R ratings. That's the reason. Which is, I don't know, maybe they'll ratify it eventually, but I don't think so. I think it's always going to get R ratings for that type of stuff. You have an anime channel? Cool. I honestly can only see Batman being rated R. Do you think Ben Affleck's Batman movie would have a Robin? I believe the Robin that was going to appear was going to be Carrie Kelly. Some of the things Ben Affleck liked that Zack Snyder was doing, and some of the things he did not. And like I said, a lot of things happened differently for Ben Affleck's movie once, what's his name, Chris McKay got attached to doing the Nightwing film, because in Zack Snyder's vision and overall scope of like a saga of movies, 6 movies, Dick Grayson was going to be the dead Robin. Before BVS was released in theaters, there is a major rumor that some of the people who actually edited the BVS movie have come out and kind of hinted at that the gravestone for Dick Grayson was completely removed from the film. as was, like, any mentioning of who the Robins were. Like, Warner Brothers wanted to make it very ambiguous who the dead Robin was, even though the director and some of the actors already knew who the Robin that died was. In this universe, it was just going to be Dick Grayson was the first Robin and only Robin, and because of this tragedy and how he was so connected to Batman as his son, that this death really caused Batman to break his one rule and start murdering people and bring him to his lowest. He never took on another ward. He may have run into a character like Jason Todd, but he didn't adopt him and make him the second Robin. Like, you know, maybe some kids just, like, ripped the tires off the Batmobile once and he sent them to juvie. You don't know. What would have happened is Carrie Kelly would have become the next Robin. And I believe she was going to make an appearance in the trilogy. However, there's also some stuff for Ben Affleck's trilogy that is known that Kevin Smith even talked about, and that was Red Hood's involvement. So, one script had no Robins, no Bat family. Another script for the Batman had hints of the Bat family. Dick Grayson would have been mentioned. Jason Todd is the dead Robin, so Red Hood, or what's his name, Hush would have shown up in a later Batman movie. Like, Ben Affleck was writing a trilogy. The first movie was going to be self-contained so they could have a budget to prove that, hey, we can make an awesome Batman movie. Look what we did here. Give us money so we can do this, the Under the Hood story, and I can have more characters interact with me, like Nightwing and Oracle and all this other stuff. You know? And then the third movie would be, like, probably a passing of the torch, having Dick Grayson becoming Batman. You know? Like, the second movie would be about the father making amends with his son, who's estranged, Dick Grayson, and Chris McKay would have also highlighted in his movie that Dick Grayson is estranged and angry from Batman's methods, because Batman went around murdering people. And that is not how Dick Grayson learned to be Robin. So, I mean, there was going to be a lot of conflict that is never going to happen now, because after Justice League, Batman is back to being himself. So I don't know what Chris McKay is going to do with the Nightwing stuff. The Nightwing draft is, like, so under wraps that people have only been able to get snippets about what the plot was. And that was that Robin was estranged from Batman, and that he was Nightwing, and that he's already been established as Nightwing for some time, working in Bloodhaven. And maybe there would be some flashbacks of how he became Robin, and Ben Affleck might have had a cameo, but for the most part, it was going to be a Chuck Dixon evolved Nightwing story with Dick Grayson being a police officer. Because that's the, like, Chris McKay loves Chuck Dixon. Like, those are the Nightwing stories that he read, you know, and became a fan of. And with good measure. I mean, Chuck Dixon is, next to Marv Wolfman and George Perez, he is like the definitive Nightwing guy. So nobody knows what would happen with that. But yeah, Affleck was going to make a trilogy, and, you know, now Matt Reeves is going to make a trilogy. That's not going to be what we wanted. It's just going to be good enough for, you know, what the studio's going to do, and he's probably going to use elements of Ben Affleck's script, but it's not a murder mystery anymore. It's a thriller, and it's detective noir, but it's not a murder mystery. Which, those are really fun movies. I'll answer questions in just a second, guys. And we're getting close to when Kingdom Hearts is supposed to come out. Are they all dead? Or, I mean, down? They're all down. Batman doesn't kill? What am I talking about? Well, I mean, this one does. Do you think we will get a Damian Robin? No, I don't think so. If they were to do anything in the movies... Ow! Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. I know for a fact that Warner Brothers doesn't really want to use Ra's al Ghul anymore because of his attachment to the Nolan universe. He's still relatively fresh in people's mind. And one of the things that Jeff Johns kind of hinted about was bringing Damian into the cinematic universe because there's more to play with that. You have, well, originally, that's what he wanted to do. That was before everybody saw Murder Batman in BVS. When Jeff Johns was talking about his involvement with the Batman and characters that he would like to see appear in the cinematic universe, such as Damian, Tim Drake, Jason Todd, all that other stuff. There was going to be a contrast in his idea for Damian working with Batman when this Robin goes around murdering people and having this contrast. But you have to remember that a lot of that stuff doesn't work anymore because we had Manslaughter Batman in BVS. You know, his actions led to the death of many people, whether it was running them over with his car, not intentionally, but just running them over, not being careful where his machine gun fire and missiles landed, using his bat grapple to throw a guy up against the wall where his cranium crashed into it and exploded like jelly. All these things, Manslaughter Batman, looking back, yes, he was Arkham Batman, but Arkham Batman that has no rules. So, I mean, I didn't like it when Chris Nolan's Batman was Manslaughter Batman too. Like, killing all those ninjas for the greater good and not saving Ra's al Ghul when his reasoning, you know, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. It's like, you still killed him. He still died. That's manslaughter. You know, you had the ability to do it and you didn't. So I mean, they upped that ante even more. And a lot of you people can kind of blame Mr. Sunday Movies for even Zack Snyder considering not having Batman kill people indirectly, because Mr. Sunday Movies showed that Batman in his cinematic debut has killed people indirectly. And I guess in his mind, you know, he was just kind of okay with it. Like, well, you know, the other Batman movies did it, but, you know, we're going to do it even more. And, I don't know. No shade on Mr. Sunday Movies, but, you know, when these viral videos, you know, happen, it gives filmmakers ideas. So, I mean, I'm just glad that that whole, like, Joker as Jason Todd thing didn't happen. Luckily, the director of Suicide Squad thought that was stupid, too. If he would have actually put in some weight to that, a crazy, dumb theory like that could have actually been canon, and that just would have even more so ruined the cinematic universe. And I believe he actually had a falling out with Zack Snyder because he wanted the dead Robin to be Jason Todd as well. And originally in the Suicide Squad movie, there was a mention that Joker and Harley killed Jason Todd, but it was just changed to Robin because, you know, Warner Brothers wanted to keep it very ambiguous until later where they, you know, dropped the hammer and told Zack Snyder for his next either Justice League or DC movies that, yeah, Jason needs to be the Red Hood. The fans really want this. We want to make our fans happy, so he's the dead Robin. And also bring in Nightwing, too, for your movie. So, I mean, they were already setting the pace for things and trying to fix things. I love hanging upside down. It's fun. All right, let's take some more questions, and then we're going to end the stream in just a little bit. The Batman origin movie where he travels the world, call it Bruce Wayne, treat it like Logan. I don't want any more origin films. No more. We don't. Everybody knows how Batman became Batman. If you want a good origin film, then watch Batman Begins. It's based on the comic book The Man Who Falls, and even though they admitted a lot of the Batman Year One stuff, the novelization is there. You can, well, I mean, while you can still get the book. Did the stream freeze? It might have froze. Either that or you can't see the snow falling. It doesn't matter. The novelization is there, and I challenge people to follow along. You can buy the book that I just got. That's why there was no Arkham Wednesdays today. I'm sorry, I'm still writing it. It's about half done, and I'm waiting on the book to finalize a lot of stuff that Bruce Wayne did that is a part of the Batman Begins lore. Because you only get, like, little hints about things that he did. He went to Princeton, he got kicked out. He's been kicked out of every Ivy League school in both Europe and North America for doing some shady stuff. One thing that people don't like about Batman Begins is he never swore an oath to his family. And he also didn't have the armchair realization when the bat comes, like, crashing through the window that he needs to become the Batman. I mean, the way that he becomes Batman is kind of stupid in Batman Begins, and a lot of fans still hate this and challenge Nolan for it. And Nolan was kind of just doing, like, this matter-of-fact thing because he didn't want to do what was already established. Apparently the scriptwriter didn't like that they did this either for Batman Begins, but you saw in the movie, he's sitting there trying to come up with ideas and tracking down the mob family as he's sitting in his floor, Indian style, and he's like, he hears this chirping noise, and he walks into a hallway during the day, and there are the bats. And then he has this brilliant idea to run down to the Batcave, and he's surrounded by bats, and he's like, all right, this terrifies me, I'm becoming Batman. It's like, a lot of people don't like that. It's a great cinematic shot where he's surrounded by bats, but it's not authentic. And also, you know, they cut out a lot of narrative about the things that Bruce has been doing because you can only pick up bits and pieces of it. And a huge example of this, when Ra's al Ghul and Batman are fighting for the first time, you notice how Ra's is calling out all the different martial arts things that Bruce is using to defend himself when he's like half dead, climbing up that mountain. You know, Panther, Jiu-Jitsu, all this other stuff. This is not a dance. You know, you're quite skilled, but this isn't a dance. Where did Bruce learn all this stuff? Originally, in Batman Begins, there was going to be, like, I guess you would say, like, kind of like a Rocky reel, where Bruce was, after he fled, and even before, he was, like, trying to figure out what he was supposed to do with his life. At one point, he wanted to be a police officer, then a lawyer, and he was learning self-defense and all this other stuff. And also, at one point, he wanted to be a hitman. So, I mean, because he wanted to kill the person responsible for killing his parents. Which is something they kind of talked about in the movie, where he was going to shoot Joe Chill, because he never got solace. Another thing that they did differently in the novelization that kind of happened before the movie was finalized is Batman's origin, how he became Batman. The opera scene is kind of stupid because being Batman is about the trauma of having your last happy moment in life, like, just destroyed in front of you because of a random act of violence. In the comics and the animated series and all the really good interpretations of how Batman is born that night in Crime Alley, he is at an emotional high. He is super happy. Like, his parents just surprised him, whether it's his birthday or Christmas or whatever, by taking him to, like, his favorite movie, which is Zorro, or The Grey Ghost, or whatever. He sees this, he's so jubilant, everything is, like, going so well for this kid. His family loves him, they're making time for him, even though they have this really busy job. They just had this great day at the theater. He is at an emotional high. Nothing can ruin this moment. And then his parents are killed right in front of him. This is a psychological trauma that turns him into Batman. Whereas Nolan, with his Inception style of doing movies, you know, Bruce is already super traumatized and having the worst day ever because of the bats. And seeing the bats in the theater is not necessarily traumatizing him more, but it's giving him a panic attack. And then that panic attack fuels him to become a vigilante. It's like, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't hold well all these years later. And those are the only things that people ever bring up about Batman Begins as critics and psychologists and Batman fans about the things they didn't like about Batman Begins. The opera, the the realization to become Batman, and the one other aspect. Everything else was perfect. It's a great origin story. It does justice to the Dark Knight. It does dignity to Batman, where Joel Schumacher and company failed. But one of the cool things with Affleck that we're unfortunately not going to get is there wasn't going to be any hints to an origin. They already showed you that Bruce Wayne's parents died in BVS. You know, they did a quick little synopsis. He was at the movie theater, was an emotional high, having the best day ever, and then his parents were killed right in front of him. That was already touched upon. They weren't going to do that again. They were going to talk a little bit about the dead Robin, but they weren't really going to mention a lot about it, because it really doesn't have a reason why Batman is inside of Arkham Asylum, you know, facing off against all his rogues in like a very budget, detective-driven film. They were going to have lots of Easter eggs to further a trilogy, but that's about it. There was no reason for doing an origin. Now, with Matt Reeves attached and his love for things like Batman Year 1 and Batman Year 2 and The Long Halloween and all this other stuff, who knows? And I hope to God it doesn't happen, because I'm sick and tired of origin movies and superhero films. They don't need to be there anymore. Unless you're doing like a hardcore reboot, you don't need to do it. Okay, a couple more questions, and then we are going to... Yeah, I like Batman being scared of bats. That's fine. I mean, but here's the thing. Okay, let me explain it to you. I'm going to get all philosophical for you. What his parents should have done... Bruce is traumatized, right? He's traumatized from seeing the bats and falling in that well and potentially breaking his arm, having the worst day ever. Instead of going to that charity opera that he had to... That he even didn't really have to. It was a date that Bruce was a tag-along for. What the father should have done, and what Nolan should have done, is you could still use Batman's fear of bats to, you know, explain why he became Batman. They should have taken the kid to the movies. You know, it should have been about, like, trying to make their son feel better, because then he would have had a bigger connection to his parents. You know? In the novelization for Batman Begins, and even the original script, there is a monologue where Bruce is talking about his parents, like, showing a more character connection to him as he's, like, half dead in the Himalayas trying to find... Or, sorry, not Himalayas. It might be the Himalayas. He's in Nepal, where the League of Shadows is. Or League of Assassins, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of funny. Shadows was actually the name in Batman the Animated Series because they couldn't say League of Assassins, because it was a kid's show. But if Bruce would have been actually taken to the movie by his dad, you know, after he fell in the well and he was scared of the bats, that would have been much better for Bruce, and it also would have shown his parents love him. What it shows is, yes, even though his parents decided to leave the theater and his dad was like, oh, you know, I had to leave because, you know, I just don't like the opera, and, you know, then wink to his son, which was kind of cute. He should have been a good dad and taken his kid to the movies to try to get him over his trauma, because taking him to the opera, you know, as the last thing that he has as a connection to his parents, and then seeing his dad die in front of him, that's not going to turn him into the superhero that we want. That's going to make, like, another crazy Chris Nolan traumatized hero, you know? And it's also why Batman gives up at the end of The Dark Knight. You know? If you really think about it, Batman gave up. He eluded the police, and then after Harvey Dent died and was buried, that was it. He left. He was a coward. He abandoned Gotham. You know, he didn't have, like, a mission anymore. He didn't believe he had a mission. He just kind of gave up. I always hated that. Yeah, there's a lot of things they could have done. What would you do if WB gives you the Batman property? What would I do? I would gloat. I would go to all those channels that say that I'm irrelevant and say that I was approached to write either a Batman animated movie or like comic book or something, I just rub it in everybody's face. I would not be humble about it because like I know that I can do a good job about it, and you know, it would be a career highlight for me. So far, my career highlight is going to be having like this guy who worked on Batman books as an artist and stuff, like coming on my channel to talk about his involvement with Batman and what he did with the Batman mythos while his time there with DC. And his involvement with the Forever Evil stuff. You know, that's kind of cool. I would probably sell my firstborn child if I had Chuck Dixon appear on my channel, but that'll never happen. I don't even have a firstborn child, so I can use an analogy like that. I would also love to interview Jim Lee. There's a lot of stuff I would love to do. A career downside would be if I ever had to talk to Dan Dido, because while I respect the guy as a human being, I hate him as a comic creator because he's terrible at his job. That's just facts. I would never get along with him. And I would grill him. I would grill him so hard. I would embarrass the guy like so much. I would not like pull punches with him because I don't like him. I don't like what he does with the Bat family and DC as a whole. Jim Lee does a better job than him. That's just facts. The lady who was ahead of DC before him did a better job. And that was in the 90s. And that's saying a lot because 90s comics were a hit and miss sometimes. Batman has a good reason for not killing people. He'll be no better than the Joker. Yeah, that's true. And you kind of saw Christian Bale's reasoning, which was great. I love that he says that he didn't kill people, but he did. The scene... That's the other scene I didn't like. The ninja scene where he was like, I'm no executioner. And then seconds later, he's like, you know what? I'm no executioner, but this torch is going to blow up this entire base that's stocked with gunpowder. And if the explosions happen to kill ninjas, that's the explosion's fault. It's like, what? Doesn't that just, like, totally contradict what you just said a few minutes ago? I don't get it. I'm no executioner. Boom! I mean, wow. Batman didn't kill people in Batman Begins. You're right, he didn't. The explosions did. The subway car did. I think that's all the people he killed. He just killed Ninja and, yeah, that was it. The ninjas in the base and Ra's al Ghul, technically. None of the police officers were harmed, which is miraculous, which is good, as far as we know. There were no casualties. And the novelization and even the script says that there were no police casualties, just damaged property and stuff like that, which is good. But the bad guys, yeah. Ninjas blew up, and there were a lot of ninjas in that base. And Ubu died. Ubu died because of a log, which that wasn't Bale's fault because there was really no way he could intervene. They were in a fight where Ubu was going to kill him. So, I mean, the falling log was kind of convenient. Falling log is convenient, you know, as it crushes Ubu to death. But I love Batman Begins. I'm not knocking on it. I'm saying I had a couple problems with it. I just did a 2-hour commentary on it on my Patreon. So that shows you the love that we have for that. That's my wife's favorite movie, like in terms of superhero films. I think she even likes it more than Wonder Woman. I don't know. I have to ask her. But yeah, we just we did a 2-hour commentary, which both of us were like so entertained rewatching that movie. And I'm even doing a lore on Batman Begins, so I don't hate Chris Nolan's trilogy or anything like that. I'm just highlighting some things that I didn't like about it. You can still be a fan about things and, like, you know, find faults and stuff. That's what it is, being a fan. If you're just, like, a person that loves everything about every single property, you're not really a real fan. You're a fair-weathered fan. You know, fans find things that can be improved and made better and things like that, you know. they can appreciate what it was, but at the same time be hopeful what it could have been, you know? And I'm not knocking people, I'm just, you know, stating stuff. But anyway, let's take a couple more questions and then we'll call it a day. Oh yeah, you don't know what happens to the criminal. Oh my gosh, you're right. In the Batman Begins video game, the criminal helps you out. But in the movie, everybody gets blown up. The only person he saves is Henry Deckard. Is Snyder the reason the supers are getting solos? Probably. Yeah, also, the DCU will lessen the impact between Thomas Wayne and Flashpoint Batman. Exactly. What do I think about the Flashpoint movie? It's not happening anymore. The actor, his name's Negan, right? He said he's not attached anymore, and he's pretty disappointed. He said when Zack Snyder was a part of the film, he was attached to it. But now that Flashpoint is just going to be a movie about basically Flash's origin and a little bit of time travel, it's not going to be the epic scale. In reality, Flashpoint, if you really think about it, it was supposed to be Justice League Part 2, but it was going to be different. And originally, when Ben Affleck was hinting that he didn't want to be a part of the movies, Flashpoint was going to be his last DC cinematic movie, and then they were going to reboot his character with a younger actor. That's how they were going to do it. This is all proven to be true. It's not happening now. Because, you know, after the reception of BVS, he stuck around. And then when he saw the reception of Suicide Squad, he was very skeptical. And he didn't even really have a big involvement in Suicide Squad like, you know, Ben Affleck. He was only on, he did 2 days of shooting and 1 day of, like, ADR or something like that. And his stunt double did pretty much everything else. He just showed up to do a couple things. Most of the movie that you see of the Suicide Squad that Batman is in, that is Ben Affleck's stunt double. Who, you know, if they got somebody who sounded like Ben Affleck, you could just use this body double for... No, I know. That would be a dream come true for that guy, though, right? Because I think he did a great job, the stunt guy who played Batman in Suicide Squad. Because Ben Affleck only showed up for a couple, like, face reveals. It was a stunt double. And the director for Suicide Squad wanted to give us a Batman animated series Batman. And Suicide Squad is the most accurate version of Batman to film. Like, he is the closest to the animated series. You know, he is selfless. He tries to save Harley Quinn when she's drowning. Yes, he punches her in the face because she's trying to kill him. Like, Batman in the animated series did that all the time. He's an equal opportunity person. I never understood why they made all these hit pieces about Batman in the Suicide Squad. He was just how he was portrayed in the animated series. Like, Batman would save people all the time and then punch them in the face if they tried to do something. He's Batman. He's not a nice guy, you know? But the body language that the character had, that the stunt double did, was spot on, you know? Batman, like, hanging out on rooftops, you know, hardly saying anything, except for a couple words. The fighting style, having his cape, like, allude to who he is and hiding in the shadows. This is all key animated series stuff. You know what I mean? And we were going to see more of that style in Ben Affleck's movie. Batman was going to stick to the shadows a lot, and he's going to be solving a very important murder mystery. I wanted to see that. So when people were reading the script that they had the opportunity to, they were blown away because it was like reading a Batman comic. Batman sticks to the shadows. Batman interrogates this guy and terrifies him because he doesn't know where Batman is. Batman uses his detective skills. Batman uses his brilliant mind. Batman uses his combat prowess. All this stuff is things people wanted to see. And Warner Brothers said no. Why? That's what I want to know. I want to know why. Because there's really nothing wrong with his script. There was nothing wrong with it. It makes no sense. This kind of stuff, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't compute this. You know? Ugh! Will we ever see Tim Drake? Probably not. I talked about the script for a while. No gay Batman, that's stupid. You a Batwoman, be happy with that. Would I like a Batman Reborn film where Grayson is? Yeah, of course. That's what they were going to do. So Ben Affleck could have a peaceful exit. Graceful exit. But no, nobody knows what's happening now. Matt Reeves' stuff is everything is all... It's like tighter than Fort Knox. The people that are trying to do leaks, they don't even know if the leaking information they have for Matt Reeves' stuff is legit or not. Only his first draft. And his first draft had the Penguin in it, but it's so boring. No ties to the Bat family. It's a noir thing, yeah. It's a Matt Reeves film, woohoo. But it no cool Easter eggs or anything. Like, at least with Affleck's thing, you would have gotten a name drop for Dick Grayson being, you know, active and hating Batman, but he wouldn't appear in the film. He would have interacted with people that are inside Arkham Asylum, like his rogues that are incarcerated, that are, of course, off the street. In Batman's world, there's just basically petty crime and all these other people on the street because he kills people. He's been killing people for a while. Ever since Robin died, he's been Murder Bat. I don't even know how Commissioner Gordon didn't lock him up in the Justice League. It makes no sense. He fell off his rocker and started killing people after Robin died. I don't, just whatever. Doesn't make sense. A Super Sons movie. I loved Ben Affleck as Batman. I thought he did a great job. The only thing I didn't like was his Batman voice. His reasoning was kind of stupid. I think he just didn't want to lose his voice during production because Christian Bale actually got laryngitis several times. By the second movie, Christian Bale was having a lot of problems with his throat. Like, a tremendous problem. Because talking like this rips your vocal cords. Anyone have a lozenge? Batman. So, I mean, he had this brilliant idea that Zack Snyder echoed, like, well, I mean, Bruce Wayne is so recognizable that, you know, it would make sense that he would use, like, this computer-generated thing, but here's the problem with that. Say he gets in a fight with somebody, he has an armored cowl, yes he does, but if he took, like, a shot from, like, Bane or a crowbar or anything when he's out in the field, his voice modifier is, like, right around his Adam's apple and in the cowl. It's not really heavily protected. A well-timed, like, punch or a heavy object is going to smash that voice modifier. And then what does he do? He doesn't talk. If he talks, people are going to be able to ID him as Bruce Wayne. They weren't really thinking about this. Because Batman always gets damaged when he's out in the field. He's a guy in a costume. You know, he's a flesh and blood character. Even if he has padded armor, his suit always gets damaged. So at least Bale was correct in trying to find a natural way of hiding his voice. Although his vocal coach should have been like, just use your Batman Begins voice. There was nothing wrong with it. It was very Keaton-like. How is this a good Batman voice? You understand what I'm saying? Where is it going? Where's Rachel? It's like, it's the howlings of a madman. You can't understand anything. It's like, and that movie almost won an Emmy. It's like, how? You know? Oh man, come on. I'm trying to end my stream and I get punched in the face. That does the opposite of punching crime in the face. It's not supposed to be punching Batman in the face. So yeah, you guys have a lot to look forward to. The Batman Begins lore in full detail is next Wednesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. The script is half written, and I think you guys are going to be surprised about a bunch of stuff that was omitted for the movie that made it into the novel, which is canon. It's been proven canon by Chris Nolan, who signed off on it. His brother signed off on it, and the writer who wrote it has said it's canon to the character as well, like for that movie universe. And it was actually used some of the stuff in the later Dark Knight movies and things like that. And even some of the stuff that's in the novel appears in the movies, such as Batman went to Princeton. He's been kicked out of Ivy League schools. He's done training prior to working with ninjas. All that fun stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little insight. You know, sorry for making fun of the Nolan stuff. And hopefully this video won't get to a DMD takedown thing or whatever. But like I said, most of this stuff is public knowledge. The Batman script is not up in full, but there are bits and pieces of it, if you can find it, where people have had different interviews over the years talking about different elements of the film, from the Arkham Asylum aspect, from the rogues, to the Easter eggs about Robin, to the detective narrative, to the monologuing, to the limited budget. It's all pieced there. Go find it. You want to look for it. I talked about this 2 years ago when it was hot news. The fact everybody else is echoing that this was going to be the most amazing Batman movie ever, I'm not going to disagree. I will also echo that statement. With what we're going to see with the Matt Reeves film is not what we're going to get. I don't even know if it's going to be a low-budget film like Affleck's thing was going to be. But it was going to set up a trilogy, and Matt Reeves' movie is also going to set up a trilogy. That's all we know. But I hope you guys have a great one. Thank you for watching my little rant, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Go back and watch the thing again so you can learn all kinds of stuff. And I hope you guys will check out my Spider-Man series starting on Friday, because we were not deemed worthy enough to receive a copy. Probably because we would be pretty objective and things like that. I don't know. I don't like that companies do the Nintendo brand ambassador thing where they get superfans to promote their product, because superfans, they don't tell you any problems with the game. They criticize people for giving problems with the game, and it just seems like it's a flood of good press to kind of like combat any negatives. And I don't like when companies do that. It's very shameful that Sony did that. I expected better for them. But they did the same thing with Uncharted 4, so I mean, it's not unheard of. The Spider-Man walkthrough will be happening Friday. You'll have 2 episodes, and you'll also have some spider lore, as I'm calling it. But I'm not well-versed in Marvel, so, I mean, we're just going to tell you where the costume came from, its important story arc, blathe on for a couple minutes, talking about, you know, what the suit does, if it does anything in the game, how it looks, blah, blah, blah. You know, be kind of bare bones what Arkham City lore was. It's not going to be full detail because I am not a huge Spider-Man fan. I walked away from Spider-Man after one more day in Civil War, so the only thing that I kept current with Spider-Man was Spectacular Spider-Man, which was an amazing cartoon, and the video games. That's about it. But anyway, people, God bless, happy gaming. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It will be archived as far as I know. If it disappears, then I did some stuff I wasn't supposed to, and I might lose my live streaming rights again. But hopefully, everything's going to be cool. So, have a great one. Kingdom Hearts released a few minutes ago. Go watch that on my second channel. And check out my Patreon if you guys want to support our Batman Begins commentary. You just have to sync it up. It's only $3, and it would be a big help to us. The link is in the description under Patreon. And yeah, take care, people.